By night and by day across the country, young American girls controlled by pimps are sent out to have sex for money, sometimes 20 men a night.
We had to make at least $1,000 a day. There was no days off.
They have to sleep with 10 to 20 strangers per night.
I would probably have up to like 20. I was so exhausted. I didn't want to do it anymore.
He hit me a few times, and then he had a gun and he pointed it at me and he was like, "You need to do what I say." He was like, "I will kill you."
Sex trafficking is reaching epidemic proportions.
Yeah, millions of people, mostly women and children, are victims every year, and those numbers are continuing to rise.
Former Pastor Anthony Haynes will spend his life in prison after being found guilty of child sex trafficking. A judge delivered the sentence, saying it's a message for those who abuse power.
Operators of a popular pornographic video website, Girls Do Porn, were charged with trafficking and conspiracy.
Billionaire businessman Jeffrey Epstein was arrested in New York Saturday on federal charges related to sex trafficking. The 66-year-old hedge fund manager has long been accused of sexually abusing underage girls.
Nearly a dozen Black and Latina girls reported missing in recent days, and authorities are now trying to raise awareness.
Maria has been looking for her daughter, who ran away when she was 15.
I haven't heard from her. All of a sudden, we started having a lot of young females missing.
I was 12 years old when I first got trafficked.
Any child gone missing, it should be known that there's a possibility this child could be murdered.
Hundreds of concerned citizens packed an emotional town hall meeting Wednesday night, worried all these vanished teens represent a disturbing spike in crime, and question if Black and Latino girls are being targeted.
We can't go nowhere by ourselves. We can't do nothing because we have to get worried about somebody trying to take us.
When they go missing, guess what? You have a child out there, and there are people in our community that will prey on those children.
Florida ranks third highest in the nation for human trafficking cases, with sex trafficking making up the majority of it.
According to the Attorney General of Texas, 79,000 minors are sex trafficked in Texas at any given time.
75,000 women and young girls have just disappeared. And if you ask me, not enough people are talking about it.
Children come up missing all the time. Pray over your kids. Make sure you know who your kids are going out with. Make sure you know who they're staying all night with. Make sure your kids are safe when they go to school. Make sure the friends of your kids, make sure you know who their friends are. Because you live in a very dangerous culture in America today. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
It should be all over the news, all over the radio. These are sisters, mothers, wives. Our babies are just disappearing. Sex trafficking and human organ trafficking is at an extreme high. This is not random. This is big business that we're talking about. It's intentional, and people in high places know about it. We have got to be alert. We got to be cautious, and we got to be diligent, because our lives depend on it.
We understand what breaks God's heart because we see it in real life. Women are not to be bought.
With an anxious mother looking on, he searches some of the websites where the girls are most often advertised. He spots a picture and the offer, Mixed Latina Catering to Your Needs.
There's a Mixed Latina Catering to Your Needs. Emily?
Can you click on it?
Yeah, would you recognize?
Yeah. Well, let me see, and then I'll... Maria. That's her. We have to make sure.
Oh. Is that
Okay, that's her. Oh my. Okay, look at this is. Look at. Listen.
We found her.
We found her. But listen.
We found
now
her.
we have her. Now we have her.
We found her. We found her. We found her. One can give the police.
So what happened with these men? Will they find them too?
As he continues his search, Nick tells Maria her daughter has been trafficked in more than one state.
So she was taken to New Hampshire as well. And there's another girl with the same phone number, and at least one of them, maybe a couple. So it's evidently somebody who's running a couple of girls and,
It's big business. A pimp can pull into a truck stop with an RV full of 7 girls and make $1,400 an hour.
This fundamental misperception that somehow a pimp and this girl are dividing up money or something. Every penny she earns goes to the pimp. Every penny. And if she holds some back or she doesn't meet her quota that she is given, whatever, $700, $800 that day, then she is going to be beaten up.
Did they ever give you any of your own money that you earned?
No. They never give you the money. This is not for you. You don't deserve anything.
So if they didn't give you any money, what did they give you? Did they give you anything?
Nothing. You don't deserve nothing because for them you're nothing. All they see you as making money from you. And the more they can make, the better it is. They don't see you as a human being.
If you've ever read anything about history, if you know anything about cultures, if you understand anything about these people in this world, from one end of this globe to the other, you will find out that a woman, when she comes under the gospel of Christ and into the church of God, is given liberty that can be found nowhere else on this earth. My friend, think about this for a moment. It was a woman that God chose to bring his son into this world. You said biologically it was necessary. I understand that for the incarnation, but it was still the seed of the woman. Genesis chapter number 3 and verse number 15. It was the virgin daughter of Zion that God elevated to a place like this. Behold, a virgin shall conceive and bear a son. Believe me, the pagan culture of goddess worship that is associated with the fertility rites, where they have temples and temple prostitutes and all of the fertility that goes on there. It is there that a woman is reduced to the position of nothing more than a sacred whore. That's all she is. And that's exactly what the culture in this country is doing to womanhood. They're taking motherhood away. Motherhood is no longer the blessed thing that it used to be. There was a time when mothers were honored by their families and their sons would fight you to the death for their mother, and rightfully so. But that now is passing away because that's not part of the new paradigm. It's not part of the new message. It's not part of the new spirit.
Hi, you remember me? Who am I?
I don't remember your name.
Shelly Money. So, like, what are you doing? You got a girl out here? 3? 3 girls. So you waiting on one to come back now?
Yeah.
In the car with her, a longtime activist, actress Ashley Judd.
How much do you expect her to bring?
40. No less. That's a new rule, 40.
So if she comes back with more than 40, do you expect that she'd be up front with you and give you the full whack, or is she only going to give you 40 because you told her that was the minimum?
40 because I'm taking care of her. You know, I got her a room and place safe to stay and drugs. So, you know, I got
The one you're waiting on now, what's her habit?
crack. Everybody, crack. Everybody.
So you supply her dope? And if she comes back with less than 40, I mean, God forbid, what's gonna happen?
I got a different system than, you know, other people. I try to treat them right. Like in the morning before they want to eat, I give them either a V8 or orange juice.
God is so merciful.
Oh, yeah.
To see so many men out here living like animals, abusing women.
Amen.
Abusing somebody's daughter. Amen. Some of these young girls now is being pimped out by men.
That's right.
Some of these young girls are being pimped out by their own father.
That's right.
Being pimped out by your own uncle.
That's right.
Amen. Being pimped out by their own pastor.
That's right.
That's right. Being pimped out by the church deacon.
Amen.
Glory to God. You see, holiness touch everything.
That's right.
Why? Why do we touch everything? Because the world is headed for hell. You wouldn't think Jesus ever walked the earth.
No.
Haynes was arrested back in April of 2017, and courtroom testimony from his trial in March showed he had sex with a minor in his custody and introduced her to other local pastors who also engaged in sexual activity. Judge Freeman says this case is disgusting, hard to believe, and unlike anything he's seen. He says this sentence should deter other predators and send a message that it will not be tolerated. Federal prosecutors say Haynes committed some of the most serious conduct and deserved the life sentence for preying on someone's innocence and trust in his authority.
For these two officers, a night has just begun. Last year, 69 runaways were pulled to safety.
We normally cover anywhere between 1 to 3 runaways a week.
And most of those would be trafficked if you hadn't intervened?
Absolutely. Either they're about to be trafficked, they are being trafficked, or they're out here living a life.
This is destroying the very foundations of the homes today. Marriages are crumbling because the woman no longer knows her role and the man no longer knows his role. And we have all of these forces coming against the home. And of course, the reason for this is because the globalists and the one-worlders want to destroy the very fabric of your society, what holds you together, what makes you what you. The family, the home, is the bedrock of civilization built upon the rock, which is Christ Jesus the Lord. If you can destroy the home, all you've got then is a jungle. That is exactly what they want. Because once you reduce it to that, you've taken the man's desire to defend anything away from him. And the man from that point on, has no wife, no children. What's to keep him in check? What's to keep him in bounds? The woman now has been stripped of her authority as a mother and the mother in the home, and all of this fits right into the plan to destroy the very foundation of this country and the world. We are not headed there, we're there.
Shauna, who started at age 14, remembers the day she couldn't take it anymore. She says after 22 years, she was here, waiting above a filling station.
You know what I'm saying? I was so tired. And I was like, if you are a God, save me. I walked back out to Murfreesboro Road, right out there, and the police picked me up and took me to jail. And I was so tired, I just couldn't do it anymore. I couldn't eat it.
Understand what I'm saying now. This is why you can have people in the highest offices in this country flying down to an island called Lolita. And when they fly down to the island called Lolita, they're going down to a place where little children are being messed with. And yet here they're sitting in the highest offices. Sitting in the highest office, I'm the good one, but then I also am the evil one. Are you following me? Listen carefully to me. The elite that feeds you at the trough of the crowd that goes out and they lick the trough. The average American, all he cares about is his six-pack and his sex. You following me? How many of you believe that? They don't care anything about their soul. They don't care anything about their family. They don't care anything about their kids. The elitists that feed them, though, are very religious. How do you think they got to where they are? The Lord had Satan say to him, I give you the kingdoms of this world in a moment of time. Just fall down and worship me. Satan has power. The only limit to the power of Satan is Christ, the Holy Spirit. Why do some rise so quickly? Why are some so wealthy so quickly? Why are some in such control so quickly? Could it be that they've made a league with the devil?
How many encounters do you think you had during that time?
Over 150.
Over 150?
Yeah.
Would that have been possible without Backpage?
No way.
Similar to Craigslist, Backpage is a basic classified ad site, but with racy adult sections like escorts and body rubs. Technically legal services that law enforcement has called thinly veiled code for prostitution.
The majority of children who are sold for sex in the United States today was trafficked using Backpage.
A pimp picked us up and then took us to his house. And then that's when I got raped for the first time. After it happened, he threw a towel at me and some carpet cleaner and told me to clean up the carpet because there was blood.
You were a virgin?
Yeah.
This first traumatic encounter sent Natalie down a dark path.
He had asked me if I had ever worked before, And then he told me that I wouldn't be on the streets. And then that's when Backpage came into play.
What did he say to you about Backpage?
Said it's safer, said it's easier not to get caught.
And through ads titled Well Worth It, $150 an hour, and It Won't Take Long at All, Natalie says she started earning $4,000 a weekend for sex, handing over all the cash to Hobson.
He started getting physically abusive, and he would sleep in the living room next to the front door, so I couldn't leave.
How often did you work?
Every single day. It's too simple. Asked you if you're 18 or older. I mean, a simple yes click was about as far as that went.
When you hear that your 15-year-old child is posting an ad for sex, or for rape in her case, and that she's getting 25 to 30 calls an hour, and you're thinking, okay, well, how many of these is she having to answer? I mean, how many times a day is my child being raped?
Right now, U.S. law protects Backpage from being held legally responsible for what users post on its site.
If someone advertises a faulty motorcycle, the buyer of that motorcycle shouldn't be able to sue Backpage merely for posting the ad. Under the law, there is no difference between Backpage posting the advertisement for the faulty motorcycle and posting the advertisement for the underage girl.
Backpage, based in Dallas, says they voluntarily put in place a multi-tiered system for screening ads, which includes employing moderators, a filter for keywords, and a user-reported flagging system. In 2012, their attorney told Nightline,
Online child exploitation exists, and the best tools to fight it are also online. And Backpage.com is currently one of the very best tools to fight it.
Age 18.
But Seattle's police department Vice Squad tells us they find underage girls listed on Backpage all the time, including Natalie, who they rescued in a hotel sting set up through her Backpage ad, 108 days after she went missing. We're here to see what happens when you post a Backpage ad that suggests an underage girl is involved. The detective creates an ad for an 18-year-old girl named Angel, adding a critical detail, the mention of a younger friend.
And then here's the kicker, right? Ask about my younger friend.
Within minutes of pressing post, the ad is up and running.
In just minutes, we have an ad that essentially is advertising an underage girl.
That's way, if you could kind of figure out
Oh
what
my
they
God.
want as far as that.
We've gotten several phone calls, several texts.
Another call.
Now they're really coming in. Hey, beautiful, are you Angel? Oh, right then, there's another one. It's 7:18. It hasn't even been up for a half an hour. This is crazy.
Erica Kramer was young and beautiful, but she was also trusting. She says she trusted the wrong people, and instead of a world of glitz and glamour, she ended up going through a horrifying ordeal that would leave her changed forever. It all started when 20-year-old Erica Kramer moved from the quiet beauty of Tennessee to the busy streets of New York City, chasing her dream of becoming a model. But the modeling agency she thought would be her big break was anything but.
They claimed to be an agency, and then when I got there, they turned into being a management.
Turns out she had to find her own modeling work, but the management agency would provide her a place to live. They had required she live in their modeling house, crammed with other aspiring young models.
There was 21 of us. Sometimes there was 30 of us, and it was only 2 bedrooms.
Erica says they were all kept on a tight leash.
We had to report everywhere that we were going. Not allowed to have any type of other friends. So outside of the girls that you're modeling with, you weren't supposed to make connections as far as you had friends in the area, you weren't supposed to go see them.
Despite starting to have bad feelings about the agency, she didn't feel like she could leave.
They would say, well, you're on your own, you only have us. I was on my own. I was in New York all by myself, and I only had them.
Erica says her modeling work started to slow down, and the management agency wasn't making much money off of her. So they required her to go to nightclubs they had connections with as a way to earn her rent.
You're supposed to stand there, look pretty, you're not supposed to talk, things of that nature, and in return, we'll compensate your rent.
She says it was in the back of one of those clubs her modeling dream became a nightmare.
I had been drugged and raped, and that happened in the back of the nightclub area.
Erica says she tried to run away that night, but someone followed her.
They had kidnapped me off the streets at that point.
She says she was drugged again, and the next thing she knew, she woke up tied to a bed. It was sex traffickers who took her and sold her to men who brutally raped and beat her over and over again.
They would choke me, they would beat me as far as just using their blunt force. They would knock me out to be able to do whatever they were wanting to do as far as taking advantage of me, raping me. They would bite me a lot.
Erica says she was trafficked for 3 days and thought she would die in that bed. She believes a manager from the agency had arranged for it to happen.
Hello? Come here. Here your hand.
Yeah, I can
Hi.
show you. For Lena Thompson, life today is about the little things. Spending time with her 2-year-old son, Travis, and watching him grow.
I hope I can give Travis a good example of what's going on when he grown up, and hopefully he will join me in the fight against trafficking.
Lena says nobody was there to fight for her when she ran away from home in Bulgaria at the age of 17, right into the hands of a sex trafficker.
The first one was my boyfriend.
After just a couple of months of living together, Lena says her boyfriend made a shocking proposal.
He said, oh yeah, well, here's a client, so you starting working. You're going to sell your body for money, for me.
How did you feel that first night after you were finished having sex with men for money?
Oh, absolutely disgusting and dirty. I felt absolutely horrible with myself.
There would be many more nights like the first one and many more clients. Lena says her trafficker controlled her every move, making sure selling sex became her world.
Most of the time they say, no, I couldn't leave because I was scared. Then if you can't leave, you're being held there against your will.
Special Agent Rebecca Gonzalez Ramos with Homeland Security Investigations says sex trafficking victims often feel trapped, just like Lena. She says sex trafficking is very different than prostitution, although some people don't understand the difference.
Anytime something is occurring to a person by force, fraud, or coercion, that person is being trafficked.
Lena's second trafficker took her from Bulgaria to the red light district of Amsterdam, where prostitution is legal. She spent hours in windows like this one on display for customers and people who just walk by to stare and judge.
They shout at you, the people who walk on the street. You know, they call you with all terrible names. They don't come, sometimes they will come and spit on your window. It's just absolutely terrible. It's humiliating.
Lena wanted out, but like the girls in the window, she never let it show. Most customers never knew the pain she was in.
I think many of them are unaware that those girls and boys sometimes are trafficked. I don't think so many men are aware of that.
They look quite relaxed. They don't look like they're having a bad time.
The sex industry in Holland is a legal, nearly billion-dollar business. The local authorities admit they suspect many of the women on display in the city's famous windows are being forced to work.
It is big money. If I have a prostitute, I can use it again and use it again to make money. So it's easy money if you compare it to weapons and drugs.
There's a lot of sympathy for the women in these cases, but yeah, there is certainly a response of like, well, if you accept having sex for money or having sex on film for money, then you almost kind of deserve everything that comes after that, which is, you know, makes it, sexual assault in general is a very underreported crime and is difficult for any victim to come forward and report, but especially in cases involving any kind of sex work, there's just this whole added stigma to it that makes it even more difficult.
At 18, Joy was down on her luck, but she had no idea how much worse her life would get.
I was in a club one night and I was kind of struggling with like trying to make ends meet and everything. And this girl in there, she came up to me and she was like, "Oh, you're pretty." And she pulled out like $2,000 or $3,000.
Money is what Joy needed, and she was vulnerable. She had no idea that woman had targeted her. In no time, through violence, drugs, intimidation, and fear, she was enslaved.
They just treat you like a princess, and then they want you to do something for them, which is go have sex for money.
The game, as she calls it, was a business, but she had no control. She was constantly given drugs. She says it was structured. She had what's known as a daddy or a pimp, and she was part of a team, usually about 6 girls.
They don't even I've had daddies where they don't let you even talk to each other. Like, I was actually here in a hotel in Charlotte, and I tried to say something to one of the girls and he slapped me.
They were sold like a piece of furniture on a website, hour after hour, forced by her pimp to have sex. Her only escape, drugs.
The drugs became the only way to live then.
Yeah, because if you actually are present all the way when you're doing this stuff, you go crazy. So you have to have something, some way out.
Joy says the team stayed on the move to keep ahead of police. Each town a new ad for their services. It wasn't just seedy motels where she worked. She's been in some of Charlotte's best hotels and finest neighborhoods, forced with the threat of death to sleep with countless men.
I don't know, probably until you couldn't, like, a lot. Until you can't, really. I've seen politicians to doctors, lawyers, to dope boys, to basketball players. People buy sex like it's bad. People buy it like it's just nothing.
How many different cities do you think you've been trafficked?
I don't know. Everywhere. I can't count. I wouldn't be able to count. I remember I was looking around the hotel room and I saw like guns and drugs and just insanity. And I was like, I'm gonna die. I was like, I'm gonna die. This is how I'm gonna die if I don't get out of here. So I went in the bathroom and I just cried out to God and I said, can you help me? If you hear me, help me, please.
2 days later, her prayers were answered.
I got off the elevator and knocked on the door at the hotel, thinking it was going to be John. And this guy answered the door and he had like a badge around his neck. And it was the FBI.
High on drugs, exhausted from turning tricks, Joy couldn't comprehend what was happening.
I remember just scared, really scared. Scared because I didn't know if I was going to go to jail, but scared because I didn't know if the pimps would come in and shoot everybody. And also, a part of me was relieved.
The agent told her there were 2 women who wanted to see her. They were from Justice Ministries. The organization reaches out to victims of human trafficking, specifically women sold for sex.
And Laney said, God sent us here to tell you that he loves you. And that this is your way out. I'm no longer a slave to fear, no. I am a child of God, oh yeah, yeah. And I'm no longer a slave to fear, no. I am a child of God.
Joy earned this diploma.
And I'm officially a dental assistant. And I am very proud of that because I never thought I'd be in school and graduate.
Joy has gotten married and found great support at Steel Creek Church.
I love this church.
She beams when she talks about getting her 2 kids back full time. She hopes this summer.
God's restored my life. He's restored my relationship with my children. I never thought I would get that back. And it's awesome. I've never been alone.
For a woman who had her dignity and so much of her life taken from her against her will, Joy is back. She was enslaved, but found her freedom and her faith.
Rescue me, Lord. Thank you.
want you to make sure you send this video, send this message to every woman that you know. We've got to take care of ourselves. We got to look out for us because the media doesn't seem to care as much as they should. We're not the leading story of the day. And I think that's what these sex traffickers are counting on.